They told you that being good would protect you, that kindness would shield you from cruelty, that honesty would open every door, that generosity would bring people closer, and you believed them. Because it feels right, doesn't it? The idea that goodness is a kind of light, a force that pushes away the darkness. But what if that light blinds you? What if it makes you an easier target for those who live in the dark? Every society needs its illusions. And the most dangerous one is this, that goodness keeps you safe. It sounds noble, it sounds divine. But in truth, it's a cage built from your own compassion. Think about it. When was the last time your kindness truly protected you? When was the last time honesty stopped someone from betraying you? When was the last time being good spared you from pain? You already know the answer. Because at some point, you were kind to someone who used you. You forgave someone who hurt you again. You stayed silent when you should have defended yourself. And you told yourself, this is what good people do. But goodness, when it has no boundaries, is not light. It's gasoline. And the more you pour it over the world, the faster it burns through everything you've built. Machiavelli saw this centuries ago. He watched kings lose their crowns because they couldn't say no. He watched leaders destroyed by the very mercy that once made them loved. And he understood something most people still can't face. Goodness without power invites tragedy. The kind ruler is not devoured because the world hates kindness. He is devoured because kindness made him predictable. Everyone knew where to strike. Everyone knew he wouldn't strike back. So the world took and took and took. The truth is brutal, but liberating. Being good doesn't make you safe. It makes you visible. It makes you soft in a world that rewards hardness. It paints a target on your back that only those without conscience can see. And yet, here's the paradox. You don't have to stop being good. You have to stop being naively good. Because the moment you open your eyes to this, you begin to see the map beneath the illusion. You start noticing the wolves dressed as sheep. You start realizing that the world doesn't run on intentions. It runs on perception, leverage, and consequence. What happens next will challenge everything you were taught about virtue. Because the first law of strategic goodness is about to emerge from the shadows. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. Every action sends a signal, every word, every silence, every smile. They all tell the world what kind of person you are. And the world listens, carefully, because it's always searching for patterns. When you're consistently kind, people don't just see kindness, they see predictability. And predictability, in the language of power, means weakness. Think about the kindest person you know, the one who always says yes, the one who always forgives, the one who always shows up when others don't. How are they treated? Are they respected or used? You already know. The world rarely rewards what it can exploit, and goodness repeated without boundaries becomes a kind of signal, a bright flag waving over your head saying, I will not fight back. It's not that people are evil. It's that human nature follows patterns of opportunity. When someone never says no, the mind stops asking if it should. When someone always helps, gratitude slowly turns into expectation, and once expectation forms, respect dissolves. That's when it begins. The subtle shifts, the late replies to your messages, the you don't mind right requests, the invisible redistribution of responsibility from them to you. You start feeling it in your body. The heaviness of saying yes when your soul is screaming no, the resentment that builds each time you silence your truth to protect their comfort, and still, you tell yourself, I'm just being good. But that's not goodness. That's self-erasure disguised as virtue. There was a man once, a manager, kind, reliable, the glue that held his team together. He covered their mistakes, defended them in meetings, sacrificed weekends to make their work look better. And when promotion time came, they didn't choose him. They chose the one who looked strong, not the one who was good. Because in the hierarchy of perception, strength is visible, goodness is silent. The quiet giver becomes the invisible one. The helper becomes the servant becomes the background. And here's the cruel irony. The more consistently good you are, the less your goodness is noticed. Like wallpaper, beautiful at first glance, but forgotten after a while. Machiavelli understood this better than anyone. He warned that a leader who is too merciful will lose both mercy and power, that excessive kindness corrodes authority, that the fox survives not because it's kind, but because it knows when to hide. The world doesn't punish kindness, it punishes patterns. When your behavior becomes predictable, you stop being seen as a person and start being treated as a resource. This is the first law of strategic goodness. Predictability invites exploitation. If people can predict your response, they can control it. If they can control it, they no longer respect it. And when respect dies, every other form of connection soon follows. So before you call your kindness good, ask yourself, is it protecting me or advertising my weakness? It always starts beautifully. You give because it feels right, because you want to help, because something inside you whispers, "This is who I am." And for a while it works. People smile at you. They thank you. They praise your heart. It feels good. It feels holy. But then something shifts. The thank yous fade. The smiles become smaller. The requests grow larger. And suddenly, what used to be kindness becomes obligation. You didn't change. They did. Or maybe they didn't. Maybe they just adapted. There's a law in human psychology few people dare to face. We get used to good things too quickly. That's why your first gift feels miraculous, your second feels kind, your 10th feels expected. Generosity has an invisible curve. It rises fast, peaks with admiration, and then collapses into entitlement. You've seen it happen. The friend who once said thank you now says, "You always do this." The colleague who used to appreciate your help now assumes you'll cover for them again. The partner who adored your support now sees it as their right. The problem isn't your kindness, it's the frequency. Because repetition transforms miracles into habits. And humans stop valuing what feels guaranteed. This is why kings limited their gifts, why emperors delayed rewards, why even the most generous gods in myth demanded offerings before they gave blessings. They understood something modern kindness forgot. Scarcity sustains respect. When everything is available, nothing is valuable. When everyone can reach you, no one truly treasures your presence. When you give endlessly, you stop being perceived as generous and start being perceived as endless. And the endless are invisible. You see, people don't love generosity itself, they love the feeling it gives them, the sense of being chosen, noticed, favored. But when your giving becomes constant, that feeling disappears. You turn their gratitude into routine, their awe into expectation. Then one day you say no, a small no, a reasonable no, and suddenly you're not kind anymore. You're selfish, cold, changed. No one remembers the 10 times you gave. They remember the one time you didn't. Because in their mind, your generosity wasn't a gift, Indor, it was a promise. This is the emotional cost of being endlessly giving. You don't lose people because you did something wrong. You lose them because you taught them what to expect. Machiavelli once wrote, "Benefits should be granted little by little so that they may be better enjoyed." He understood that gratitude needs space to breathe, or it dies. So if your kindness no longer feels appreciated, it's not because the world is heartless. So it's because you made goodness common, and what becomes common stops being seen. This is the second law of strategic goodness. Abundance erodes value. The rare act of help inspires loyalty. The constant act of help breeds dependence, and dependence always turns against its source. So next time you feel unappreciated, don't give more. Give less, but give wisely. Because true generosity is not about how much you give, it's about how sacred your giving feels. The world doesn't see you. It sees the mask you wear. You could have the purest heart, the kindest soul, the most honest intentions, and none of it would matter if the mask doesn't match the moment. This is the cruel symmetry of power. People don't judge your essence, they judge your appearance. And appearance in a world driven by perception is power. You've been told that authenticity is everything, that showing your true self will attract the right people, that vulnerability is strength. But try that in the wrong room, and you'll learn how fast a truth can become a weapon in someone else's hands. Machiavelli understood this centuries before psychology had a name for it. He said, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few know what you really are." He wasn't encouraging deception. He was describing survival. Because the mask isn't a lie, it's armor, the expression you choose to show the world, not because it's false, but because it's strategic. The most powerful people in history mastered this art. They smiled in public and calculated in private. They appeared merciful while making ruthless decisions behind closed doors, not because they lacked morality, but because they understood that morality without control is vulnerability. Think about a surgeon. He cuts you open to save you. To the untrained eye, it looks cruel, but it's the kindest act possible. Precision disguised as pain. That's how power works. Sometimes goodness must look harsh to protect itself. Sometimes truth must wear silence to stay alive. Sometimes light must travel through shadow to reach the eyes that can bear it. This is not about being fake. It's about timing. The wise know when to reveal softness and when to reveal steel. They understand that the truth spoken too early becomes chaos, and compassion shown too freely becomes currency. So when you meet someone who seems endlessly transparent, beware. Total transparency is a form of nakedness, and the world is not kind to the naked. To survive, you must learn to govern your image, to decide what to show and what to guard. Because in a world where attention is the new power, your image is the gatekeeper to your influence. And that's the third law of strategic goodness. Image governs access. How people perceive you determines how they treat you. Perception builds the doors you can walk through, or locks them forever. So if you want to keep your soul intact in a world that trades on appearances, don't destroy your mask. Redesign it. Make it yours. Wear it consciously. And when you smile, let them wonder what you're thinking. Every choice you make spends something. Not just money, but time, focus, and energy. Every yes is a small death of a no that could have protected you. Every moment you give away is a piece of yourself you'll never recover. You've been taught that saying yes is noble. That helping everyone makes you good. That sacrifice is the highest virtue. But there's a truth most good people never learn until it's too late. You cannot give endlessly without eventually giving yourself away. Look closely at your life. Every favor, every act of generosity, every moment of emotional labor, it all leaves a mark. Your time is not infinite. Your energy is not renewable. Your willpower is not eternal. You wake up each day with a limited charge, a quiet battery of focus, patience, and vitality, and by nightfall it's gone. The world doesn't tell you this, because the world thrives on the energy of people who don't realize they're being drained. You think you're helping. You think you're building goodwill, but slowly, without noticing, your own dreams begin to fade behind everyone else's demands. You start resenting the people you once loved helping. You begin to confuse exhaustion with virtue. And one morning you wake up empty, wondering how goodness turned into bitterness. It didn't. You just confused self-destruction with kindness. Even airplanes understand this truth better than most humans. When the oxygen mask falls, you're told to put it on yourself first, because if you pass out trying to save everyone else, you save no one. Goodness without strength collapses under its own weight. For years, I believed otherwise. I said yes to everything, every small favor, every quick call, every person who needed something just for a minute. And in return, I earned fatigue, the kind that no amount of sleep can fix, because I was trying to feed the world from an empty plate. One day I stopped, not because I stopped caring, but because I started counting. I began to see time, energy, and will as currencies, and every transaction demanded awareness. Some things give you energy, others steal it. Most people never learn to tell the difference, but the moment you do, the moment you start guarding your internal economy, everything changes. You stop apologizing for resting. You stop feeling guilty for saying no, and you start realizing that the people who only love your yes were never really seeing you. Here's the paradox. When you conserve your strength, your actions become sharper. When you limit your yes, your word gains weight. When you protect your will, your impact multiplies. The world doesn't need your constant presence. It needs your focused power. It needs you to show up whole, not hollow. Machiavelli wrote, "He who wishes to be obeyed must know how to command." You cannot command the world if you cannot command yourself. You cannot lead if you cannot say no. And that brings us to the fourth law of strategic goodness. Conserve to concentrate. Your power grows when you stop scattering it. Your goodness becomes meaningful when you decide where it belongs. Because you were never meant to be endlessly available. You were meant to be precise, a force that chooses when, where, and why to act. There's a quiet cruelty hidden inside human memory. It doesn't remember kindness the way it remembers pain. It forgets comfort faster than it forgets discomfort, and it buries gratitude beneath the noise of expectation. Think about it. You've done so much for people who barely remember. You've given your time, your help, your presence. And the first time you couldn't, they acted as if you'd changed. That's the silent betrayal of human nature. Gratitude is temporary. Expectation is permanent. At first, they thank you. They call you generous. They admire your heart. But each act of kindness plants a dangerous seed. The belief that you'll do it again, and soon enough your help stops being a gift. It becomes a routine, then an obligation, then a debt you didn't know you owed. The mind adapts to comfort like the body adapts to temperature. Quickly, completely, silently. And the more warmth you provide, the less they feel it. You can help a friend 10 times. They'll forget the first 9. They'll remember the one time you didn't. Because absence echoes louder than presence, that's the dark arithmetic of gratitude. It depreciates with use. The more often it's invoked, the faster it fades. You'll see it everywhere. The employee who stays late every night, unnoticed until the one time they leave early. The parent who sacrifices daily, unappreciated until the one time they say no. The partner who gives everything, invisible until the day they protect their boundary. And in that moment the story flips. Your virtue becomes their grievance, your no becomes their proof that you were never as kind as they thought. Because to them, your kindness wasn't an act of choice, it was part of their environment. And when the environment changes, people panic. Machiavelli wrote, "Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, for everyone can see, but few can feel." He meant that people see what's missing before they see what's given. They notice the absence of benefit long before they recognize the presence of effort. You can fight this truth, or you can master it, because understanding it gives you freedom. You stop expecting eternal gratitude, you stop mistaking appreciation for loyalty, and you start giving without needing applause. This is the 5th law of strategic goodness. Memory retains loss, forgets gifts. It sounds tragic, but it's liberating. Because once you know this, you no longer bleed for acknowledgement. You give because you choose to, not because you crave to be seen. And paradoxically, that's when your actions regain power. When your giving no longer needs recognition, only purpose. You meant well, you always did. But good intentions have never stopped a war. They've never healed a wound. They've never built a bridge without hands to lay the stones. The world doesn't run on motives, it runs on outcomes. And while your heart may glow with purity, your results still cast the shadow you live in. You might think this sounds harsh, but look at history. It doesn't remember those who meant well. It remembers those who built, changed, moved, and transformed. And sometimes those people didn't look kind while doing it. A parent disciplines their child. A teacher gives a failing grade. A doctor delivers a painful truth. None of them act from cruelty, they act from love. A love that's strong enough to be misunderstood. That's real goodness, not comfort, not softness, but courage. The courage to do what is right, even when it doesn't look right. Most people can't handle that kind of goodness. They prefer the illusion, the gentle smile, the agreeable tone, the easy peace. They call that kindness. But kindness without truth is cowardice. And truth without courage is silence. So what happens? People stay nice instead of good. They avoid conflict. They say yes when they mean no. They protect feelings instead of futures. And the world quietly decays under the weight of their politeness. Being nice keeps you liked. Being good gets you hated, at least for a while. But eventually, results speak louder than comfort, because time always sides with those who build, not those who please. Machiavelli said, "The end justifies the means." It's one of the most misunderstood phrases in history. He wasn't celebrating cruelty. He was warning against naivety. He meant that good intentions alone are useless unless they create good results. That outcomes define reality, not ideals. So ask yourself, would you rather be remembered as someone everyone liked, or someone who changed something real, even if it cost you affection? The nice person makes the moment easier. The good person makes the future better. Nice people crave harmony. Good people create transformation, and transformation is never painless. That's the brutal paradox of virtue. If your goodness doesn't disturb the world, it's not powerful enough to heal it. This is where most souls get stuck, trapped between wanting to be loved and wanting to be effective. But the truth is merciless and pure. Love without results is sentiment. Results without love are tyranny. Real goodness is the balance between both. And that's why the next revelation changes everything. Because if goodness can destroy you when it's blind and save you when it's strategic, then the question becomes, what does moral power really look like? Power and goodness. Two words that were never meant to be enemies. And yet, somewhere along the way, we were taught to choose. Be strong or be kind. Be feared or be loved. Be powerful or be pure. But what if that's the greatest illusion of all? The truth is that real goodness doesn't reject power. It requires it. Because power without goodness corrupts, but goodness without power collapses. Most people live on one side of that equation. They either dominate without conscience or care without control. Both destroy themselves in time. The tyrant burns others. The saint burns himself. But in the middle there's a narrow path, a quiet intersection where strength and mercy meet, where discipline and compassion merge into one thing: moral power. Moral power is not loud. It doesn't scream. It doesn't posture. It doesn't need to. It moves through restraint, the ability to strike but choosing not to. It holds the sword but keeps it sheathed. That's why people misunderstand the truly good. They seem calm, but they're not weak. They forgive, but they never forget. They appear gentle, but there's thunder in their silence. The world's greatest leaders, spiritual, political, artistic, all understood this paradox. The Buddha wasn't soft. He walked away from a kingdom. Christ wasn't weak. He confronted empires with truth. Marcus Aurelius ruled with compassion but wielded the discipline of an emperor. They were all, in their own way, dangerous because they had mastered themselves. That's the secret. Power isn't about control over others. It's about control over impulse, over emotion, over the need to prove. The weak fight to be seen. The strong choose when to appear. The wise understand that visibility itself is a weapon, and they decide how to use it. When goodness and power unite, something alchemical happens. Mercy becomes strength. Boundaries become love. Silence becomes presence. And that's the meta-revelation hidden at the heart of all strategy. Power guards goodness. Goodness guides power. Neither survives without the other. A heart without structure collapses. A structure without heart corrodes. The true alchemist doesn't separate them. He fuses them. He turns mercy into magnetism, authority into influence, discipline into grace. That's what you were meant to become, not the wolf, not the sheep, but the shepherd, the one who knows when to protect, when to command, and when to stay still. Because goodness alone can save souls, but only power can keep them safe. Understanding is not enough. If awareness doesn't turn into action, it dissolves into comfort, and comfort is the silent killer of transformation. Now that you've seen how blind goodness destroys itself, it's time to build something new. Not a softer heart, a sharper one. Not less kindness, but cleaner, stronger, rarer kindness. To do that, you need a structure, a protocol, a discipline for the heart, because compassion, when left untrained, becomes chaos, but when guided by clarity, it becomes force. Here's the framework. 5 silent steps that separate naive kindness from strategic virtue. Step 1. Alignment. Before you say yes to anything, pause. Ask yourself, does this align with who I am and where I'm going? Goodness without direction becomes guilt, and guilt is how manipulators find their way in. If the act doesn't serve your higher purpose, it's not kindness, it's leakage. Step 2. Costing. Everything costs something. Time, focus, emotional energy. So count before you give. Ask, can I do this without depleting myself? If the answer is no, you're not being selfless. You're being careless with your own light. Step 3. Scarcity. Make your goodness rare, because rarity creates reverence. If you help everyone, no one treasures your help. If you're always available, your presence becomes background noise. Set limits not to be cruel, but to stay visible. Your no builds the frame that gives your yes its meaning. Step 4. Reciprocity. Not every gift should return, but every exchange should respect both sides. If you always give and never receive, you are not in a relationship, you are in a transaction that bleeds one way. Ask, does this person also add value to my life? If not, it's not generosity, it's self-erasure disguised as virtue. Step 5. Review. After every act of giving, step back and observe. Did this strengthen me or drain me? Did it create growth or dependency? Goodness is not measured by applause, but by the balance it leaves behind. When you follow these 5 steps, something changes. Your kindness becomes deliberate. Your presence gains gravity. Your words start to carry weight. People begin to feel your boundaries before you speak them. You don't become colder, you become clearer. You don't give less, you give right. And your energy, once scattered, becomes radiant. This is the discipline of moral clarity. The transition from emotional reaction to conscious intention. Machiavelli hinted at this when he wrote, "The promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present." He wasn't praising dishonor. He was describing adaptation, the courage to evolve your goodness when the world changes its rules. So remember this law, the one most people never learn until they've been broken by their own giving. Choose when to shine. Not every moment deserves your light. Not every person deserves your warmth. And not every battle deserves your presence. When you choose your moments, your goodness becomes magnetic. When you choose your people, your love becomes sacred. And when you choose your silence, your power becomes infinite. Every life leaves a mark, but not every mark endures. History is a ruthless filter. It forgets those who were merely liked. It remembers those who endured, those who built something strong enough to outlive their image. Goodness without survival vanishes. Because you can't save others if you're crushed by the weight of your own virtue. You can't change the world if you don't last long enough to see it. That's why every legacy begins with one rule: survive first. The kindest people in the world often fall first. They burn out. They give too much. They trust too quickly. They think that purity will protect them from the storm. But purity without armor is just a target waiting for arrows. To survive, you must learn what the shepherd already knows. Compassion without vigilance invites wolves, and mercy without boundaries feeds them. The shepherd doesn't love the flock less because he carries a staff. He loves them enough to guard them with it. He knows that protection sometimes looks like resistance, that peace sometimes requires a growl, and that true kindness sometimes wears the face of discipline. Power and love must live in the same body. Otherwise, both die. The weak cannot sustain goodness. The strong without goodness cannot sustain meaning. Only the integrated, those who hold both the sword and the heart, create legacies that last. You were not born to be a saint that the world consumes. You were born to become a guardian, a builder of boundaries, a keeper of your own flame. Because when your strength protects your light begins to guide others. And that's the secret the world forgot. Leadership isn't domination, it's endurance. It's presence, it's survival through purpose. Machiavelli once wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." He wasn't glorifying fear, he was revealing a truth about respect. Love without respect dissolves into dependency, but respect without love turns to tyranny. The balance between them, that's mastery. So be both. Be kind and formidable. Be warm and untouchable. Be the calm eye within chaos. Because one day, long after your voice is gone, what will remain is not how gentle you were, but how you used your gentleness to shape the world around you. And when people look back, they'll call it strength. But you will know it was something deeper. It was strategic goodness, the art of protecting light without letting it burn you alive. So let's return to the beginning, to the question that started all of this. Does being good keep you safe? You already know the answer now. Goodness doesn't protect you, It exposes you, it opens you to beauty and betrayal alike. It lights the path, but it also reveals you to the predators watching in the dark. And yet, that doesn't mean you should stop being good. It means you must stop being blind about it. Because goodness, when guided by wisdom, becomes strength, and strength, when guided by goodness, becomes destiny. You were never meant to be prey. You were meant to be the shepherd, the one who carries light through shadow, the one who walks among wolves but doesn't become one, the one who protects without fear, leads without ego, and loves without losing themselves. This is the true alchemy of the soul, the transformation of naive virtue into sacred power, not by rejecting kindness, but by mastering it. From this day forward, your goodness is no longer an open wound. It is a weapon, not a weapon of harm, but of clarity. It cuts through manipulation. It pierces deceit. It defends what matters. So the next time someone mistakes your silence for weakness, your mercy for ignorance, your boundaries for arrogance, smile, because you'll know something they don't. You'll know that your light has teeth. Goodness was never meant to be soft. It was meant to be sacred. And sacred things must be guarded. That's the final lesson. You can't save the world by being harmless. You save it by being whole, by being powerful enough to choose peace, even when chaos would be easier. So ask yourself one last time, will you let goodness weaken you, or will you master it and turn it into power? Because now you have the knowledge, the map, the laws, and the choice. If this message awakened something in you, if it changed the way you see the world, subscribe to Alchemia of Mind. Join the ones who seek truth over comfort, strength over illusion, and wisdom over noise. Your journey doesn't end here. It begins now. Remember, in a world full of wolves, don't be a sheep. Be a shepherd. Be the guardian of your own light. And when you walk through darkness, walk knowing this: your goodness is not your weakness. It's your weapon. Use it wisely.